In this video, we're going to show you all the popular coverages in football, starting with cover zero all the way to cover five and everything in between. And by the end of this video, you'll be able to identify which coverage your favorite team is playing. Now, before we get started, there's three concepts that we're going to reference throughout this entire video. And we want to make sure that we're on the same page as we're going through each coverage. So the first one being spot drop. So if we're playing a spot drop coverage, it's exactly like it sounds. So if this strong safety here is going to spot drop, he's just going to get to an area of the field, drop there, and get his eyes on the quarterback. So if you think about a cover two, and we have two high defenders, every person on the field is just spot dropping. They're getting to an area and they're going to vision the quarterback and cover anybody that comes into their zone. And of course, this is the most popular type of zone coverage, but we're going to reference this as spot dropping throughout the video. And next, we're going to talk about matching or man matching. And all it is think of it like I have this player until he does XYZ. So for instance, when we talk about cover three and cover four match, this strong safety is going to play in cover three, this H vertical unless. So I am matching his route unless he goes under, and then I'm going to zone off. And it's a way for coaches to play zone principles with match rules built on top of it. So you have your spot drop and you have your man matching principles. Again, I have this player unless he does XYZ. And then the last principle we're going to talk about is just straight man coverage, which is pretty simple. If you're a basketball fan, whatever it is man-to-man is man-to-man. So a strong safety will have this H wherever he goes across the field. There is one concept that we do want to talk about, and it's called a banjo technique, where if these players are lined up close together, they'll both come off the football, and the strong safety in the corner will just play first in, first out. So if he goes in, he's going to take him, and if he goes out, corner will take him, and the strong safety will play the next defender wherever he goes. So that's called a banjo technique. So we just want to make sure we cover those three principles between the spot dropping, the matching, and then of course just playing straight man coverage. Now, the first coverage that we're going to talk about is cover zero. And we always want to look at that last number in the coverage. That's how many deep defenders there's going to be. So for instance, cover zero means that there are zero deep defenders. When we're looking at this situation here, typically teams will play cover zero when they're going to bring a six-man pressure, meaning this player's gone, this player's gone, this player's gone, this player's gone. So if you're playing a four down front, all four down linemen are rushing. And then in this instance, the linebackers are gone. So you see all the gaps are covered and all the players are trying to get to the quarterback as fast as possible. And then this free safety will walk up and he has the running back. Okay, so if I draw all the lines to who has who, it looks like this. Now, why do teams do this? Obviously, they want to get the pressure on the quarterback because it forces the quarterback to throw hot, meaning he's got to catch the football and throw it now. Or you better hope that the offensive line and the running back pick up all of the pressure that's running at the quarterback. Often you'll see in the NFL where they'll run loops and stunts and everything and try to get a player free. But this is what teams are trying to do with man coverage on the back end. Now, it is a very high risk, high reward coverage because high risk, of course, you have no deep help. So if this X receiver on the edge is very good and he beats this corner on go ball, or he beats him on a slant to the inside, he's at catch and gone because there's no one to help him out in the middle of the field here. So again, there's your high risk. The high reward, of course, is you're bringing six players, and if the quarterback can't handle the pressure, he's got to get rid of the ball as fast as possible, and maybe he throws an interception or takes a sack. So when you look at a defense playing zero safeties deep, you know it's going to be a high pressure situation. And again, it puts a lot of stress on the defensive backs, but again, teams will play it because they have to pressure the quarterback, especially if they can't get there with only four or three rushers, they'll try to bring 5 to 6. The next coverage is cover one. We look at that number one. That means we are going to have one deep defender. So typically our free safety is going to roam the middle of the field. And then everybody else, kind of like cover zero, they're all man coverage. Right? So the nickel is going to have the Y, corner is going to have the Z. And then the running backs will split the running back. So meaning they'll both have the running back. And if he swings this way, he's going to play him man coverage on the outside. And it allows this player to play free. And there's actually a lot of different variations that you can play out of cover one. And we're going to cover a few. So like we said, we have an extra player here with the linebacker that if he's not covering the running back, so we'll say the running back's lined up to this side, and the rules of the defense that the team has is wherever the running back's lined up, that linebacker will have him man-to-man. So what do we do with this extra player? We can do a few things with him. One, we can press him and send him through a gap to try to get the quarterback. So that's more of a 5-man pressure with playing cover one on the back end. You can have him drop into the middle hole area, right? So if a team likes to throw across the middle, he can just play the middle while this free safety plays deep over the top. Okay, so you gain an extra player underneath and you gave an extra player over the top. You can also use him as a quarterback spy, meaning if you have a quarterback that likes to run around the pocket and get outside the pocket, you can just tell this player, hey, wherever he goes, you go. That way you're protected on any quarterback runs outside of the pocket. Next, we're going to look at the free safety and different things we can do with him. So you can shade him over a top of a slot receiver, or you can do what some teams in the NFL do. They'll call it one double 85, one double 84. So let's say this player is number 85. The call will come in, say, hey, we're going to run one double 85, meaning we're going to cover one. And then this safety here is going to shade over the top and we're going to double 85. So you see, it essentially looks like we're playing cover 0 on this side, then cover 1, just because that safety is shaded over. So these players, if the teams do run that one double coverage, they don't really have much help on the backside. They got to win in man-to-man. And the last variation from the free safety is what we call a rat. Okay. So this free safety, instead of just roaming the middle of the field, he's then going to come down and try to rat any crossers coming through. Okay. So there's a few ways that teams will do this. If you're playing against an air raid team, they like to throw the ball 30 to 40 times a game. And one of their favorite concepts may be mesh, where they're going to run this over and under. You can have your free safety. And this is something the Patriots used to do a lot, where if they would just alert one side, say, hey, if he's under now, I'm going to rat him and take him all the way across the field. And then this player will essentially sink off and play cover 1 on the backside. So it allows your free safety and your nickel to not have to chase, because if he has to run with this, like a Tyreek Hill or wherever it may be, all the way across the field, there's probably slim chance that that's going to happen. So what teams will do is they'll play rat coverage, where they'll say, hey, if this is Tyreek Hill on the right side and he goes under now, I'm going to support because I have the angle and the leverage to take him. And then you replace me as a single high safety. So it's just a different variation to play cover 1 and to take away any of those crossers, but still have single high presence in the middle of the field. That way you can take away any posts or anything that's going to go through the middle of the field. Next, we're going to talk about cover 2. And cover 2 is predominantly a spot dropping coverage, meaning that each player on the field will drop to an area to cover. So if you look at it with all the bubbles, it should look something like this, where you have 5 underneath defenders, and then you have 2 deep defenders. Okay, remember that coverage, cover 2. Okay, that last number means how many deep defenders we have. So ideally, it should look something like this if you play it right. Now, notice there are a lot of soft spots in this defense that go deep on the edges. Okay, what we call down here, this is called the red line on the outside, behind the corner. So again, those are soft spots the quarterback's trying to hit. And then through the middle of the field is also a weakness. But when we're playing spot drop cover 2, again, 2 high defenders, 5 underneath. This is great for any team that like to throw short crossers. It's a great way to take advantage and be aggressive with those corners, knowing that they have help over the top. And from a cornerback perspective, you'll often hear the term force funnel flat from the corner, meaning, and I'll get rid of this bubble that way you can see it better. This corner is going to press this wide receiver, and he's going to force him into the funnel, which is the middle of the field here where the nickel and the free safety are. So he's going to force him, funnel him to the middle, and then get back to his flat. So that's our common term in cover 2, is force funnel and flat. Now, what offenses started to get creative with was, okay, well, what if we can occupy this free safety by, let's say we bring him on a corner, and then that free safety has to chase it, and then we bring this Z all the way through the middle here and split it right through the middle. So they started to get creative, so the defense obviously has to counteract it. So what's the answer to covering the middle of the field is the Tampa variation of cover 2. So you often hear it be called Tampa 2. And all we're doing with Tampa is we're taking our middle linebacker, and he's going to scream through the middle of the field and then get his hips flat as if he's playing safety. And these player must be extremely athletic to be able to do this. You can't really have a box-fitting linebacker, a 5'11", 6 feet, stocky linebacker that can't run. This has to be an athletic player that can run with those speedy receivers through the middle of the field. But this was the variation that, of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tony Dungy played with, was how do we get this linebacker through the middle of the field? That way our corners can play more over the top this way, and we're still protected through the middle of the field. So again, the teams will call Tampa 2. These players would play more inside here, and then this player would, again, just scream through the middle of the field. As soon as that ball snapped and it's pass, he would take off and run and square his hips back up. So it would look like this by the time the play was over with the linebacker here. But that's the version of the Tampa 2 cover 2. If you like learning these coverages, we have plenty more football for you to learn inside of our Ultimate Football Guide. You can find in the description below. Next, we're going to talk about cover 3, and we're going to talk about the spot drop variation first of cover 3. And similar to cover 2, Each player is going to be responsible for a section of the field. So we're just going to draw these bubbles real quick. And then the nickel and the strong safety both here are going to have the outside flats. Linebacker here are going to be dropping into what we call the hook curl area. And then, of course, cover three, meaning that the corners are going to have deep third. And then the free safety here is going to have deep third as well. So again, if it's all bubbled out, it looks something like this. That way you have all three defenders. Now, again, this is what we call spot drop in cover three. Again, everyone has a zone, but you notice here, and I think this actually paints a really good picture of where's the weakness of the defense. Well, the weakness of the defense is the slot receivers that are screaming down the field here. As you notice, it puts stress on this free safety because if we get four verts, all right, where each the Z receiver as well is running down the field, the corner has to take the Z and the corner has to take 85 here. So the free safety's got to choose. Do I go to the H? Do I go to the Y? And good quarterbacks will look off, meaning I'll stare at the Y receiver, which will force the free safety to fade this way a little bit. And then they'll throw a rope over here to H running down the seam. So how do teams counteract that? So the way that defenses counteract that is they play match cover three, okay? And this was invented by Coach Belichick and Coach Nick Saban when they were with the Cleveland Browns back in their day. So what is match coverage with cover three? So essentially you're saying, hey, we're going to cover this H receiver if he goes vertical or out. Meaning if I get this or this, the free safety is now playing him. Same here. If I go here or here, the nickel is going to play them. All right, the corner is going to take anything deep. Both X and number 4 in this situation here, we'll just put him as the Z receiver. That way we can clear things up. But essentially what you're doing is now we're covering routes based off what they're running, not just dropping to an area. So if the quarterback wants to throw these seams, that's fine. We're going to then funnel him by leverage to our free safety. So the free safety can just drop back, and just by leverage, he can be on the back of that go ball, and then the nickel could be on the back of that go ball as well. So everything's being funneled to the safeties, but it also covers the flats because we're not just dropping to an area now, we're covering actual receivers. And then the linebackers here are just matching three. So if you look at this running back right here, 1, 2, and then here's your number 3. If he's fast as a flat, he needs to be fast as a flat now. So now you're seeing we're covering receivers. We're not just dropping to an area. We're actually matching routes. And there are 100 different variations of how you can run match coverage, but this is the simplest form of match cover 3 and how teams are matching those vertical routes. Now, the last thing you probably are wondering is, hey, what if this Y goes in? Well, we're just going to leave him and let him go underneath because eventually these linebackers will pick him up. If he's going this way, he's covering this area and he can run with it this way. Again, if you do get mesh, let me clean up these routes here a little bit. If you do get mesh where this player goes this way and then this player goes this way, well, the strong safety has no one to cover, so he's going to end up covering this Y coming back. And then this nickel, because he let him go, he's going to end up covering this H coming back. So it does have zone principles, but the base rules for those nickel and strong safety is, hey, vertical it's mine, out it's mine. If he goes in, I'm letting him go, and I'm going to look for work and see what comes back my way. Next, we're going to talk about cover 4, and it has the same principles as cover 3 with a spot dropping element and a matching element. So again, with the spot drop element, you're going to create what we call an umbrella over the top, meaning cover 4 deep defenders, and there's what we call an umbrella. So you have 4 receivers that are going to be capping everything. We're not going to let anything get behind us. And then where are you most vulnerable? Of course, underneath, right? So if everyone's just dropping here to an area, we only have 3 players underneath. So 3 players to cover 53 and a third, it's a lot of grass to have to cover. So that's why spot dropping in cover 4, it's great if you're trying to cap routes. A lot of teams will run this maybe on 4th down or 3rd down and long, where they're going to get everybody to the sticks and we're not going to let anybody beat us deep. But again, this coverage does have holes in it. As you can see underneath, there's not a lot of room for those 3 players to cover, which is why the match element was then introduced. So the spot dropping element says that this outside linebacker and this nickel needs to run to the flats because they have the flats, right? Well, now what if this player doesn't go to the flats, but we still want to have integrity underneath? So the rules for the nickel and match coverage and match cover 4 is if he goes out, he's mine. I have to take him. If he does anything else, let him go to the safeties, not my issue, right? So both these free safety and the nickel are reading the release of number 2 here, the Y. If he goes vertical, free safety is going to take him. If he goes in, same thing. We're just going to let him go and we're going to zone off and pass him off. Same thing goes to linebacker and the strong safety on the backside. If he goes out, linebacker's going to take him. If he goes vertical, strong safety's going to take him. Often, what corners will play in match cover four is what we call a mod technique, man only deep. So, same thing. If this receiver wants to go under now, let him go under. We're going to zone off it. And this corner is then going to take his deep fourth and zone off it. Okay. Same thing over here. If he goes vertical, however, corner has to take him. So you see, like we talked about earlier in this video, it's all if then situations. If this happens, then I might cover him. I may release him and let him go underneath. Now, of course, there is ways to beat match cover four because you can send these players on double posts to try to gain advantage and leverage a game. And that's what a lot of teams will try to do is, hey, if we can inside release him, knowing he's going to fade off of it, we have advantage on that post. So a lot of teams will take the double post. But again, we just cleaned up the lines here. That the match principles of letting these players run underneath cleans this up too. Because if I'm playing man coverage, teams are just going to run pick plays all day long. And this allows us to say, hey, if you're going under, I'm just going to zone off. Hey, if you go under, I'm going to zone off. And we're both going to end up covering those routes anyways, just because we get them going across the field. So that's the match version of cover four. Now let's talk about cover five. Now, cover five is a popular coverage, also known as two-man. It's called different things in different worlds, but I always refer to it as cover five because you have five players that are playing underneath. And it's the one coverage that does break that principle of that last number being the coverage behind it, because we don't have five deep. It's called cover five because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players underneath and playing man coverage. And then, of course, behind her also be playing zone coverage. Again, you can call it two-man if you want. I'm going to reference it as cover five in this video. So again, everyone is playing man coverage, and then you have two deep safeties over the top to make sure that nothing, of course, breaks deep. But this is the essence of this. It's played in a lot of third down, fourth down situations, just because, again, if these safeties are athletic, they can cap everything and make sure nothing is thrown over the top. There are some routes that do take advantage of this coverage, especially when you make your X or Z receiver run all the way across the field. And then through the middle of the field is where this weakness is for cover five. So typically when teams do try to beat this coverage, they have to beat man coverage up front, and then think about beating a cover two behind it. So you got to think man, you got to think the zone as you're pressing down the field. So those are our base coverages. If you do want to see us talk about cover seven and split field coverages, let us know in the comment section below. I think that's a whole nother video and probably another 30 minutes of your time that we'd have to take to make that video. But there is a version of Coach Saban's cover seven that's wildly popular, and it has more split field elements to it. And we're happy to make that video. If you're interested in it, just let us know in the comment section below. So again, if you're a fan and you do like learning more about these concepts, we've created the Ultimate Football Guide in the description below. If you do have any questions, please let us know in the comment section below. We try to read all the comments and get back to you as soon as possible. So thanks for watching. Recommend you check out this video here next to help you learn even more football. We'll see you next time.